Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. And welcome to all of our listeners who are tuning in for the very first time to our very first episode of Soul to Soul with Sonia G. I just want to welcome all of you. I am so happy to be here, and I'm happy to be here with my guest. Carolina Quiroz. I will introduce her more formally a little bit later. Um, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the show and how the name came about, right? Um, I wanted to talk about the purpose, right? The purpose and the mission, really, just so you guys are all aware, is going to be about bringing things to light, right?
Mhm.
And um, it's going to be about bringing on people, therapists, licensed therapists like Carolina, right? Like myself, bringing on experts, other experts, right, in different fields to share their stories of resilience. And I think it's going to be very inspiring and very motivational for a lot of people. And I think it's something that we really need right now, you know?
Absolutely.
And so, Carolina, welcome, my dear, and thank you so much for being my first guest.
Oh, I'm so excited. And thank you so much, Sonia. It's really such an honor to be here with you. You're a light. You're really a light.
Oh, thank you. Um, I think that's so perfect, right? To get into
Mm-hmm.
the name of Soul to Soul and how it came about. Because when you look at the name Soul to Soul, at first, well, first, I think I have to share the other names, right?
Yeah, let's go through them.
Let's share the other names, right?
The ones that didn't make it
Yeah,
through.
the whole process of the ones that didn't make it. I really had in my heart and in my mind soul sessions with Sonia. And I'll tell you why. Shout out to my friend Diana Safe out there, who is
Mm,
also a hospice social worker, and she does beautiful, beautiful work. And I think it was like 2 years ago,
mhm.
she was like, we need a soul sessions with Sonia. We need a
Mm,
soul sessions with Sonia. And I'm like, oh, I love that. And so when this opportunity was presented to me,
mhm,
Carolina, I thought, oh, soul sessions with Sonia.
mhm.
And what happened? I talked to you, right?
Yes.
And I'm glad I did.
Yes. Yes. I remember texting and messaging back and forth. And
Mm,
you told me, and first of all, I love the name as well.
yeah.
But I was like, hey, did you know that there's a podcast out there? And actually, I know the person from that podcast with that name.
Yes.
And so, hence where the metamorphosis of soul to soul came about.
And you know what? I think it was just supposed to be that way. It was perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was like the beginning. It had to do something with soul.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so after that, I thought soul talk. Ooh, soul talk.
Mm-hmm.
But there was something that was missing with
Mm-hmm.
like our Latino culture,
Yes.
¿verdad?
Mm.
Like there was
See.
like, I don't know, it just felt too like it's missing something.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought soul connections. Oh, that's still missing something. I still need a Spanish word in there somewhere, right?
See.
People had voted for soul connections, and I thought, I almost went with it, and I thought, it sounds like a dating show, right?
That's true.
Soul connections. I really did. I thought it sounded like a dating show, so I'm like, no. So what happened was I talked to my husband and I said, hey, I had these ideas. Can you think of something? And instantly he said, soul to soul. But my husband's white, so it wasn't soul like the sun.
Oh,
Right. I mean, he was meaning soul to soul, right?
yeah.
And I thought that is perfect, actually, because do you remember that band from back in the 90s? Um, Maybe Johnny DJ remembers that band. Who? Back to life, back to reality.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, there you
Yes.
go. That's Soul to Soul, okay? So they
Oh.
had these two really popular songs, and I used to love them. So I thought that'd be perfect. And then, just kind of play on words a little bit. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought the second word would be the sun, but in Spanish, right? So we did Sol because I'm Mexican American. Soy
Yes.
Latina. I have to add a little bit of our culture there. But I think there's just so much more to it, right? When we were talking and
Mm-hmm.
reflecting on the title, it was like, oh, this is really powerful. Because when you look at the soul, we're thinking about, like, I think about the essence of a person, the essence of spirit, the mind, right? The soul. And this is kind of what I want to do here, bring people on here to really kind of bear themselves. I think I had told you, I keep hearing the phrase bear your soul, bear your soul. And that sounds kind of heavy,
Yes.
but that's essentially kind of what we do when we are vulnerable.
Yeah. And what we do out as well as therapists.
Yeah,
There's the heaviness. Yeah.
absolutely. So I thought that is so beautiful. And when I think about bearing my soul and bringing my dark shadow to the light, right? Carl Jung,
That's the healing,
that's the
really.
healing.
That's the healing.
That is the healing because so many people want to keep it in the shadows and keep their stuff hidden. And like, I hope this show it really encourages all of you to be okay with, you know, I think I put like recovering out loud, not suffering in silence anymore,
Love that. Yes.
right?
And that's essentially what I'm going to talk about today as well,
Yes.
right? How we
Mm-hmm.
bring our stories that maybe we didn't share for whatever the reasons may be, or we thought we couldn't share, and bring into the light because that is where the healing is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Carolina, with us being licensed psychotherapists, I think we teach our patients to do this and we encourage them to do
Mm-hmm.
this. And so we have to do
We
it.
have to walk the walk.
We have to walk the walk.
Yes.
Yeah, right? And
Right.
not just that, but I think we were talking about narrative therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what this is. This is what we're doing tonight. Narrative therapy, right? Storytelling.
Pláticas.
Pláticas con Carolina.
Uh-huh.
So again, I wanted to give you guys, our listeners, just some insight, some background on how we came about, well, how I came about that name, right? But I had a lot of help. I was just guided, like check in with Carolina. And you shared something else, though, about the sun. When
Yeah.
we think about the sun, obviously, the
Right.
sun, I think about energy, divine
Mm-hmm.
energy. I think about the sun giving us like connection to divine source, to renewal,
Yes.
and light.
Yes.
What you said, light.
Yes. And one of the things that I mentioned to Sonia when she told me about the title and soul being included was I was like, hey, Sonia, did you know that the sun and in a lot of indigenous cultures is, and they talk about the four directions. And the sun is one of the four directions. It's a power, it's a source of power, of
Mhm.
light.
Mhm.
And also, oftentimes, when we talk about like crossing and connecting to ancestors,
Mhm.
we um, we offer something within the four directions. So oftentimes, like you see like altares, and you
Yes.
put a candle,
Mhm.
right? That's the source,
Oh, I
right?
see.
So there's a
Okay.
lot of meaning, especially when you mentioned that you wanted to incorporate our cultura, right?
Mhm.
That is such a the soul is definitely part of who we are, our indigenous roots as well.
Absolutely. Yes. And again, I think about just the light
Mm-hmm.
and shining light and normalizing a lot of this talk about mental health because even now, as I talk to
Mm-hmm.
people, and I know we're therapists, so this is all very, very normal to us.
This is 24/7
Yeah, this
small
is
talk. This is small talk.
this is such small talk, right? But yeah, I think it's important to. I'm so happy that Angelina approached me with the opportunity to create this space because I think it's so needed. I think there's a lot of people who don't
Mm-hmm.
have proper information. And I'm just so glad to be of service to our community and just to shine some light,
Yeah.
to shine some light, to bring some joy and to keep it real, to really keep it real because
Mm-hmm.
we're going to talk about some topics that are taboo, or that a lot of people still want to keep hidden.
Mm-hmm.
So, um yeah, I'm excited,
I'm
Carolina.
excited too.
And again, thank you so much for being my first guest.
Of course.
I think as we prepare to our listeners out there, right? As we prepare to listen, I want you guys to really just kind of open up your hearts, right? And see if there's anything that you identify with,
Mm-hmm.
right? Anything that you might relate to, um, anything that might resonate with you, and just be kind of open because most of the time we have someone, we know someone
Mm-hmm.
that may be suffering in this way, and so we might be able to share this knowledge with them. Um, so prepare your hearts, my dears,
Mm-hmm.
as we get started. I do want to read a disclaimer,
Yes.
okay? Because this is really, really important. Carolina, we've heard of, I'm sure you've heard of this, right? Where sometimes we get new clients or patients and they're like, well, I've had some, but they're getting a lot of their information from like TikTok or others.
Instagram reels, which benefits, but not complete information.
Correct,
Yeah.
right? It's, um, which goes to my point and this disclaimer, right? I want to remind all of our listeners that this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional therapy, okay, or for medical treatment. So if you are experiencing a mental health crisis or if you are having thoughts of harming yourself, please dial 911 in an emergency or call 988, which is a suicide and crisis lifeline for immediate support. And as we begin, I
Mhm.
want you guys to just please take good care of yourselves as we listen in today. Okay. Um, I do want to introduce Carolina more professionally, okay? Because Carolina is amazing. She does so much, okay? Carolina Quiroz is a licensed psychotherapist who specializes in adult complex post traumatic stress disorder and interpersonal trauma. And she's also an EMDR therapy consultant.
Mhm.
I'm not going to say what EMDR stands for because I always mess it up. So I'll let you kind of explain to people yeah.
What that is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, EMDR,
Mhm.
eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's a long one. But it's a specialized type of therapy that helps people process either different traumatic memories or highly stressful memories to kind of prevent trauma from occurring as
Mhm.
well. But yeah, it is a specialty and it is a type of therapy that I practice. And it is a really big part of my practice as well.
Mhm. And it's a big part of your practice because you are more than just someone who specializes in EMDR.
Mm,
You are a consultant.
that's true.
Okay, that's on a different level, you guys. Okay, she's put in a lot of work hours. So tell us about that.
That's true. Yeah, actually, the other day, someone just asked me about it. It's like, hey, how long have you been practicing EMDR therapy? And I was like, I had to calculate it. And I was like, actually, it's been about 7 years.
I was thinking when I met you, Carolina, you were already practicing EMDR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I actually got trained really early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that what that means is I'm certified, and then I also had to do more hours and more practice to become a consultant. And now I could also, you mentioned in the beginning, like creating this space so you could give back,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that is also my way of giving back and helping other therapists, right? So they could also come into the journey and be part of the EMDR community, but also as Latino and BIPOC community,
That
which is
is
so needed.
that is so needed and so wonderful because it's like you're guiding. You get to guide our people that come after us, right? Like,
I love, and they guide me too because I'm constantly learning. It's a right to
oh,
mutual
sure.
exchange. I
Yes.
really do love it. Yes.
Oh, that's so awesome,
Yes.
Carolina. Um, Anything else that you want to say about that?
Yeah. Well, maybe not so much about the EMDR
Hmm.
stuff, but about the other one, the adult interpersonal trauma, right? Like when you hear that, you're like, probably like, what is that? What does that even mean?
This
Right?
is very good. Please explain to
I
our
get it. It's
listeners.
just, all right.
Yeah.
So, what that means is that I work with people who have experienced usually layers and layers of things that have happened to them, usually trauma, right?
Yes.
So, and oftentimes, right, these traumatic experiences were at the hands of like another person. So that's what it makes it interpersonal, right? It happened, someone else wounded you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was intentional or not,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and so interpersonal trauma is really attachment work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Attachment work. And
Mm,
when we talk about attachment work
mm,
for our listeners that have no idea what
yeah.
attachment work is, what is attachment work?
So I think we're very familiar with like, or more familiar, I should say, with like trauma. And that's when something happens,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like something has happened to us. And attachment trauma is almost like when something that we needed to happen didn't actually happen,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Mm-hmm.
protection, care, love, all of these things. Sometimes, again, intentionally or unintentionally,
Mm-hmm.
um, our parents or our caretakers or our family or our community were not there for us in the way that we needed them. And that creates wounds, a
Yes.
different type of wounds, but also they could have this the same level of impact that like physical trauma can have as well.
Correct. With what was missing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so they're still dealing with these deep inner wounds
Mm-hmm.
with attachment. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's I love that work. I do a lot of that work too.
Yes.
So let's talk about what is the difference between complex post traumatic stress disorder
Mm-hmm.
and post traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah. That's the other part of my title, right? Like what is also this CPTSD or complex PTSD? Again, I think people are mostly familiar with PTSD,
Yes.
right? And maybe not so much with complex PTSD. So I'm going to read out actually the definition so we get it clear. So, complex post traumatic stress disorder is a mental health diagnosis that arises from various prolonged and repeated traumatic conditions. So, that's right there the key. So, it's prolonged, so it's happening for a long time, right? And it's happening over and over and over. So, it's repeated. And especially when the person that this is happening to feels trapped or unable to escape, right? So that's another big factor here. And then PTSD, what we usually common, I think people are very familiar with like PTSD from like military veterans or them,
Mm-hmm.
something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And PTSD is usually a diagnosis that is given for people that have experienced a single traumatic event. So it could be like a really bad car accident, for
Correct.
instance,
Yeah.
right? Um, it still could be really, really difficult, and it could still be very traumatic, and it could still impact the person very significantly. But it is different. It's
Mm-hmm.
mostly for a single traumatic event, where mostly people have had a pretty good overall foundation and are able to recover.
And I
right?
think you said something key, right? That it is a one kind of single event with
Mm-hmm.
PTSD, like that
Mm-hmm.
car accident or certain incident.
Mm-hmm.
And a big difference from
Big
complex
difference.
PTSD. Complex PTSD, like you said.
Layers upon layers upon layers. And so, like, when we think of PTSD, there are other things that are also that people with PTSD can experience some of this as well. But really, people with CPTSD, the ones that have experienced these layers and layers of trauma, they also have these additional things. And it only makes sense, right? And these include some of the attachment stuff that we just talked about. So, emotional dysregulation, self concept disturbances like, I have no idea who I am, right? Do we hear this or do we feel this, right? And the community, like, I don't even know who I am. Like,
Yeah.
and they really mean it. It's not like a momentary fleeing thing. It's like, no, it's pervasive, meaning it's there and it's so often,
Constant.
right?
Mhm.
And it could be really, really debilitating and helpless,
Right.
right? And then the other one is also relationships and conflicts, but primarily due to constant pervasive mistrust in others.
Mm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you start putting all of these things together, it actually makes sense.
Sure.
Because we just said like CPTSD is layers and layers and layers, and oftentimes since childhood.
Yes.
And so oftentimes when we're children, if we think about this, um, parents or caretakers or family members are the ones taking care of us. So oftentimes it's somewhere in there that trauma is happening. So it
Yes.
would make sense that I wouldn't trust those around me. So
Right.
it's not illogical. It's very rational,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that I also want to add is that typically people with CPTSD also use emotional numbing, right, or withdrawal, and they often have a lot of difficulty self-soothing.
Oh, that's a good one, right? Having a difficulty self-soothing, self-regulating themselves.
Mm-hmm. And and again, if we put the two and two together, bring it back, right? Layers and layers, childhood trauma, for instance. Um, so we learn how to self-soothe through co-regulation.
Mm-hmm.
So if that thing didn't happen, remember I talked about, so there's the traumas, the things that happen, and then the things of omission, what we call the things that didn't happen, and these are the attachment trauma.
Right.
Right. So if my caretaker, and again, intentionally or unintentionally, right,
Mm-hmm.
maybe parents had to work, like we're talking about our comunidad, right, like the, for instance, immigrant communities that they
Mm-hmm.
have to work, or sometimes just our parents, they had to work, they weren't available, they had to put food on our table, right?
Right.
And but we still were a little kid.
Oh, correct. We still had needs,
We
right,
still
that
had,
went unmet.
yes.
Yes.
And so I still, when I fell down, I still needed someone to come and like, how are you? Not just put a band-aid on, but like really soothe me, right?
Yeah.
And so if I didn't get that, I'm going to have a lot of difficulty soothing myself as well,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Now, and the other thing I wanted also to mention with CPTSD, I think is important, are actually examples of some of these chronic
Yes.
traumas. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, long term childhood, psychological, physical, sexual abuse or neglect,
Mm-hmm.
right? Prolonged domestic violence or witnessing of violence and abuse, right? And not just in our family system, but it could be in our communities as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is, and that's an important piece. And I'll say more to that in just a
Yes.
moment. Also, surviving war, imprisonment. So think about the prison industrial complex here,
Yep.
right? And like slavery. So there's some things that are like really systemic oppressions that are go way outside the family system that is also important for us to consider here.
Thank you for, again, going back to there's layers and layers,
Mm-hmm.
right, to this. Thank you for mentioning that. Anything else that you want to bring up about the difference?
Yeah. Well, I think those are primarily the main things here. I do want to mention that CPTSD is actually not recognized in our DSM, which is in our diagnostic manual, right?
Yes. That's
So
correct.
that it's been debated. They still supposedly need to do more research, but really clinically and also through research, it's been widely accepted now
Mm-hmm.
for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It is included in the ICD-11, which is what in the like in healthcare fields, those are the codes that they use. So technically, you can like for those that are seeing like a therapist and they need to bill a code, they technically can bill
It is
for it.
there.
It is there,
Yes.
and you would know.
But yes, I do know. But it is not in the DSM. It's not recognized, which is, well, that's a whole other story,
Right.
what I was reading. But continue.
Yes. No. Well, that's
All right.
essentially
Okay.
that's
Well,
essentially what I wanted to say.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it does exist. So even though it's not in the diagnostic manual, it's a consensus. It exists. It should be there.
Mm-hmm.
And just because it's not in there doesn't mean it's not real, because it is.
Absolutely so real. So thank you.
Mhm.
I hope that our listeners really, you guys are getting a really good understanding of the difference between
Mhm.
PTSD and then complex PTSD. Um, let's get into your
Get to
story,
it.
Carolina.
Yeah.
Right? Again, I want to just thank you again for being so vulnerable and so generous with your time and with your story. Um, let's get into it. Right? Please share with us, like, what did the struggle look like for you, and or when was the point of recovery?
Yeah. So before I start, it was you actually reminded me when you mentioned disclaimers. So
Yes.
I actually do want to give a disclaimer, even though I'm not, like I mentioned to you, I don't go into any detail about any type of gory stuff.
Yes.
Um, I do want to give a disclaimer because we are going to be talking about eating disorders, right? And so this is not, I feel like this is not something that is widely spoken, especially within our community. And it's not that it doesn't exist, it absolutely exists,
Oh,
right?
yes.
It really exists all over us. But I
Yes.
do want to mention, so someone listening, even though I won't be going into necessarily any details specific to certain behaviors, that is the topic. And so I do want to let people know if they need to be more sensitive with their own needs to take care of themselves as they listen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you need to step away, that's
Mm-hmm.
totally fine
Mm-hmm.
because that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate you saying not mentioning the gory stuff, and I want to just make a point of that because I think for a long time people really have gotten really drawn in and stuck on the what did I call it? Trauma. It's like
Trauma porn.
trauma porn. Oh,
Yes.
tell me the worst of what happened, you know,
Yes.
and obviously we don't really want to give that energy.
No.
And so part of it is really not sugarcoating and being
Mm-hmm.
very real, but um, talking more about the recovery and the light and how you get healthy again. So,
Exactly.
Carolina.
Well, well, thank you.
Yes.
Yes. And, I'm really inspired by my clients and the people that I work with because they are really so vulnerable in telling us and sharing us all their stories and experiences. And so it is really important to me to be as ethical as I can probably be. So this means walking the walk, right? So if I'm listening and they're and saying that I'm creating this space for people to share their story, like it's important for me to also share my story, of course, with pace,
Of
right?
course.
Yeah, you have to be ready, and I tell that all the time to my clients. But like I mentioned to you, yeah, I'm at a place where I feel really comfortable talking about it now, and I think that's a good thing,
You've
right?
healed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yes, at least about this.
Yeah. Oh, I know. We have other things that we still.
Right, right.
Oh, yeah.
It's a forever journey for all of us, right?
It sure
Yeah.
is.
So I guess I'll just mention um, the way I was thinking about this question, and when I saw the word struggle, I was like, oh, okay, interesting. And
Mm-hmm.
then I was like, you know what? I almost see the struggle in two phases.
Okay.
So the first phase, I see it like it was, I believe it was the summer before entering my ninth grade.
Mm-hmm.
That's really when the eating disorder became present,
Okay.
right? and in very observable. Like when I went in ninth grade, like my friends were like, "Whoa, what happened?" But not in a bad way, because
Oh,
remember,
yes.
we live in a society that has certain beauty standards and certain body standards, right?
Yes.
So, but it was the first time people noticed something change. And so
Mm,
it was really the presence of the eating disorder. It was there.
it was there.
Yeah.
You were 14,
Yeah, I was around probably 13, 14.
13, 14. Okay.
Yes, because it was the summer of, yeah. And so that was the first struggle, right? And then lasted about a decade. And then the second struggle was actually the beginning of the recovery, or the midst of the recovery, which was in my mid 20s. And that also lasted like another decade,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I see it as two phases. And the first phase of the struggle, really when the eating disorder was active, was really the manifestation of what the eating disorder was.
Okay.
And so for me, it was um, like it was a cluster of what I would refer to as like somatic symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
So when if you like to kind of inform about what is somatic means,
Yes.
right? Somatics are really like psychological or even environmental stressors that are impacting us. Emotional stressors are impacting us, and then they're getting manifested. They're really showing up as physical symptoms,
Yes.
right? So, oftentimes, an example of a somatic symptom would be a tummy ache. Like, let's say there's a little one and they're starting school, right? And they're nervous
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, "Oh, my tummy hurts in the morning. I can't go to school."
Yeah.
Right? That's an example of a somatic symptoms. On its own, it's not a pathological thing. It's not a bad thing. It's really actually very common in childhood.
Yes.
You were going to say something?
No, no, no. I was also going to say it's very common, but it's also the body's like it's our
Mm-hmm.
alert system. Our bodies are very intelligent and they let us know like something's up here. Pay attention.
Yes. Yes. I definitely think that's true. And I also think it's like when a lot of somatic symptoms show up later in life,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something to be said about like there's maybe a developmental arrest, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's like early childhood needs that have not been met that are being manifested later.
I could see that. I see that all the
Yeah,
time.
which
Yes. W-
certainly was part of my story.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, you know, part of an eating disorder, so there's these things, the things that have happened and didn't happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in my case, to give my parents as much credit as possible, even though out of all my siblings, I've always given my parents the hardest time in being direct and like telling them like, you're wrong.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
Yeah.
Even tonight,
Yeah.
today. But
You're a great advocate. I mean, what can we
yes,
say?
of course. But it was really not intentional, like not being able to be there for me
Right.
in the way that I needed. I mean, I'm the third child out of five,
Ah,
so hands full for my mother.
sure.
But another thing about eating disorders is they're inherited traits as well,
Oh, talk about that.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the big inherited trait is perfectionism,
Yes. That's a big
right?
one.
That's a big one. And then so perfectionism, I could certainly see where it comes from, and it certainly comes from my dad's side
Mm-hmm.
because he has that type of meticulous way of doing things. He's the type of person that if like you go to the grocery store, he's going to spend hours reading through the labels and making comparisons. Like he's so meticulous about these things.
Oh, wow.
So on its own is not necessarily a bad thing,
Right.
right? But then when you start pairing it and clustering with these other things, perfectionism becomes very rigid,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a healthy trait.
It starts affecting our mental health.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. And so, and then the other thing, which is a really big thing, and we kind of hinted at that earlier, which is the societal pressures
Mm.
of body standards and beauty standards.
Oh, gosh.
So, all of
Sorry.
that at age 13, 14, right? All of that stuff equals eating disorder for me, right?
You said something also, Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
You said it became present and I was noticed for the first time. That's a big one. And I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
you felt noticed because like, oh, maybe your figure was showing differently now,
Mm-hmm.
and you were gaining more attention, and that feels good
Yeah.
for a young teenage girl,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's a big that is a big piece, right? Of that
Mm-hmm.
keeps people in that cycle and in that loop. Yeah.
Yes. And it is a big piece. And I'll definitely, I believe I talk a little bit more about
Yeah.
that, but it is. It's
Yeah.
like, it's here,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say the second phase of that struggle, right? And it kind of is in different ways, is the shadow work. It's the recovery. In the recovery comes the shadow work. And for me, it also comes the body liberation.
Yes. Ooh, talk about that.
So that is hard work, but that is bringing it into the light. That is the recovery.
I love that because I think in a lot of for you, it was an eating disorder. For me, it's been drugs and alcohol, but I can see me going through those phases of recovery in the same way, like in
Mm-hmm.
those two phases. So I
Mm-hmm.
really like how you
Mm-hmm.
worded that.
Yes, yes. Um, so maybe I could share a little bit about how the recovery looked for me.
Yes. And
Yeah.
when was that point? Yes,
Yes, when
share.
was that point? So it
Mm-hmm.
actually, like I mentioned, it was like my mid 20s. And so about in my mid 20s, that's when I entered grad school, right? So
Ooh, fun.
yeah, interestingly enough, thing about me, grad school wasn't that hard for me.
Oh, well, of
Yeah.
course.
So
But you're just naturally brilliant, Carolina.
no, it's actually undergrad was tougher for me.
Was it really?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what? Actually, I have to agree with you.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So if you think about it,
it
it's
is.
true.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So it was grad school, and also in the middle of like grad school, I also became a mom, which gave me another layer of wanting to live, right? And wanting to be as
Mhm.
healthy as possible.
Mhm.
So that was a big thing. But actually as I was reflecting, I was noticing that the biggest probably strength and thing that changed was my age. I was 10 years older now from the onset of the eating disorder, right?
Mhm.
So started 13, 14. I'm in my mid 20s now.
Mhm.
So I've had some maturity
Yes.
in me. I was more aware of things in my life, right? I had literally, well, already, right? Like an undergrad, my undergrad focus was in psychology, right?
Yeah. So you were already gaining that knowledge, which is
Mm-hmm.
so to your advantage, to our advantage, because so many people who
Mm-hmm.
don't get this,
Mm-hmm.
they keep
Yes.
suffering. They don't know. They don't have that emotional awareness, which equals emotional intelligence.
Yeah, and they don't have the information.
That part. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I had all of that. Even though I was in the midst of the struggle, right, in undergrad, I was maturing and that information was sinking in to one
Mm-hmm.
degree or another. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a big moment of change for me, that age. It really was the turning point.
Yeah. Okay.
But there were certainly other seeds throughout my recovery of my eating disorder. And I like to say, sometimes I hear people like say like they might not identify with like a disorder,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't necessarily now, but I think it was important for me to say it was my eating disorder because it was something that was part of me.
It does become a part of,
Yeah.
just like with other diseases. And
Mhm. Yeah. And it was a part of me, and now of course, you know, 10 years post that recovery period, I realized that it was a part of me because it was a part that got created within me to kind of help me,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you were noticing that thing when you're like, you came alive,
Mm-hmm.
you were here. It literally was so powerful. It literally changed the way I looked,
Mm-hmm.
right? It also completely took over. So that
Yes.
was a big, you know what? I heard a comedian, I always repeat this,
No, it isn't.
that says, like, the monster I created as a child to protect me
Oh my
took
gosh.
over.
I think we can all say that in so many different forms, right?
Yeah.
Like the ego we put up or
Mm-hmm.
the vices or whatever
Yeah.
that we create to
Mm-hmm.
protect us.
Exactly. And I must have created it in some way, um, but it definitely was created there to protect me in different ways that I didn't know until much, much later in life. So
Mm.
that's why I call it, when I refer to the story, I still refer to it as like my eating disorder, in that it was a part of me that presented itself as such to show myself, to show me, my parents, those around me, that there something was happening.
That's amazing and that is powerful. And that's when we
Mhm.
get into shadow work. If
Mhm.
we choose to look at these things this way,
Mhm.
that it was
Mhm.
there to show you something and to pull you out.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know what? I do want to mention something
Yeah.
about the eating disorder, because there are some BIPOC mental health activists that actually reframe the word eating disorder to eating imbalances.
Mm.
And that is to to connect to the origins of ancestral surviving and historical oppression of black and brown bodies. So they really talk about, like, these eating disorders are really eating imbalances of unmet needs, not only within our family system but systemically.
Which you were talking about in the beginning,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? With slavery and
Mm.
then just
Mhm.
oppression of a lot of like brown colored people. So,
Right.
how it all still
Yeah.
transfers over.
Exactly. Like, I've heard another activist, I believe she is, her name, her her work is from Nalgona Positivity, and
I've heard of
she,
that.
yes, and she
Okay.
talks about, like if you think about systemic oppressions, also about like mass starvations and genocides of the indigenous people, and what that does, right? When they remove them from their land, they remove them from the food, right?
Hmm.
So it's these big, big things that we don't even think about, but really are affecting the individual.
Yes. Yeah. I'm so glad that you bring that up. You know, those are
Mhm.
important
Mhm.
points
Mhm.
to point out. Um, let's move a little forward. Let's talk about how, in your opinion, your healing informs your clinical work.
Yeah. Um, you know, I would say it took me a while to really answer that question. Even when I saw it, I was like, "Huh, interesting." But I think is part of that. The answer to that question is that I've learned how to integrate my story,
Mm.
right? That, again, bringing that shadow and integrating that shadow into the present. And there's a saying, I really try to practice, and I really respect Buddhist teachings.
Mm.
And there is a saying that says that you allow your karma, so your roles and experiences in this life, to guide your dharma, right? Right.
Karma and dharma. I
Uh
think
huh.
so many more people need to learn about that, right?
Mm hmm.
Things would work a lot smoother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. So I think that as was another piece of integration, of course, the
Mm.
spirituality. So once I've learned that, hey, this is part of my story,
Mm.
I can accept this story now. That in itself has lent to me be able to talk about it and sit here with you today. Right?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that just, there's a growth that happens when we're able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, people feel it.
Yes.
It's authentic.
Yes. Yeah, and ultimately that's what we want, right? I get sometimes some of my clients will
Yeah.
come to me and they'll be like, "Do you want me to tell you? Do you want me to tell you the real real?" And I was like, "Well, we are in therapy. I would hope so, right?"
Yeah, I
Yes.
know. Some of the things, right? It's like, okay, well, I have one, two, three. Okay, which one do you want first? The good or the bad? I'm like, oh, whatever you want to give me first.
Yes, let's. I'm here. That's why we're here, right?
Isn't it wonderful, Carolina,
Yeah,
what we get to do?
yeah. It really is.
I mean, it is. I'm really grateful, with what we get to do and like really hold space for people. And then I think being able to do it here, like
Mm-hmm.
more on a macro level, how special that
Yes.
is. And, again, I just want to thank our listeners if, whoever's tuning in and listening in right now. Um, Thank you again for sharing that. Um, let's talk about some common myths
Yes.
or misunderstandings about eating disorders, because I bet there's a lot.
I'm sure. I'm sure more than I even can think of.
Yeah.
But I do have a couple that I thought about it and I was like, okay, what are one of the ones that I had some misconceptions about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and kind of what kind of hinted on that when I said about reframing eating disorders as eating imbalances, right?
Oh,
So the first one would be an eating disorder is more than a disorder or a pathology. It truly is an imbalance of unmet needs.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I just love how you reframe that.
Mm-hmm.
It's really an eating imbalance of unmet needs.
Mm-hmm. And not just emotional needs, but also like physical needs as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the other one is weight is not a marker of an eating disorder. Really, fat phobia and misogynoir create systemic medical biases,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, how often do we hear of stories of people that like go to the doctor and they just tell them like they're overweight, but don't ask him like, how are you feeling? What's happening, right? Or like if they were their doctor for a while and they're noticing a shift, like what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there are a lot of systemic medical biases.
So many, and I think also like when you look at the weight, how ridiculous it is, the body weight to the
Yeah, the
height,
BMI.
to the BMI. Oh my
Don't even
gosh.
get me
Don't even
started.
pay
Don't even.
attention to that
Don't.
stuff. I mean,
No.
sorry, that is ridiculous because
Yes.
that causes a lot of eating disorders.
Yeah, and also like neglect in the medical field, in the
Oh,
medical system. I'm gonna reference a book here, and that is part of it. So,
yeah, please
Sick
do.
Enough. Here's
Sick enough.
excellent book. She's a specialist in eating disorders, and she actually talks about how she assesses weight for people that like have maybe like binge eating disorder or something like that. So she's like, okay, we're just gonna look at BMI. No, she actually looks into the family history. Like, what is the average weight for for that family?
Right.
When does the family consider this person to be a healthy weight, like if they're in adolescence, when they were a child, and she takes into consideration all the culture and familial factors.
Of course, it's not a one size fits all like in other places.
You're right. So the other one, and that also has to do with like what I learned within my story, is the recovery does not start after the eating disorders. There are seeds of recovering and healing throughout,
Uh,
even in the midst of the worst. Like when I mentioned, like I was an undergrad and and my major was psychology and also actually minor in women's studies. All of those things that I was learning, those were all seeds. They didn't sprout until 5 years later, but
oh,
they
I
were
see
there.
that. Okay. Yeah.
So remember that. And also, I'm going to repeat myself, but this is a really important one. An eating disorder is a protective mechanism. It came here to help. So it is trying to communicate so much to you, those around you, about what's happening around you.
Mm-hmm.
So
So it's like pay attention, right?
be
Instead of be
curious.
curious.
Be curious.
I like that. I use that in brain spotting all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We want to explore with curiosity, kind of like a kid,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Carolina, what are some first steps that someone can take if they are struggling,
Mhm.
right? I mean, I know there's a lot of the self compassion, obviously seeking professional help.
Mhm.
What would you recommend to someone who is currently in those phases, whether the phase one or the
The
phase
phase two.
two that you described?
Yeah. And you know what? And I remember talking to you that I was going to flip this question a little.
Yes.
And so instead of directing it to the person struggling, I'm going to direct it to the family or to the mental health providers or the people around them. And so I would say, first, keep in mind that they're going to push you away, and there's going to be anger, and there's going to be fits. It's not going to be pretty. It was not pretty, trust me. You could ask my parents
Yeah.
and my siblings.
Yeah.
Really
Hmm.
involve others in your team as the support person, and make sure that that support system and even you are curious and gentle but persistent,
Hmm.
right? Now, the other one is at the beginning. And so now I'm going to speak specific to more of the eating disorders related more to like anorexia or bulimia or atypical anorexia or bulimia, is that sometimes the hardest, but also even for disorder like binge eating. So the hardest thing at the beginning of the recovery might be the eating.
Yeah, I could see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Because remember, the body is so smart and the brain is so smart,
Hmm.
and it's always trying to help you. And I
Yeah.
know it sounds bizarre, but it is true. It's
Hmm.
trying to help you and it's trying to adjust. And the book Sick Enough,
Hmm.
she calls it, the doctor calls it the starved brain. And
Mm.
so the brain is usually is saying, hey, we're going in through a famine, don't eat. And so then when you start eating, it literally feels foreign.
Yeah.
So understand that that part is going to be difficult because physiologically your body is rejecting it. But
Hmm.
with help from a good medical provider and support system, it can happen. You can get that balance back.
Get
That
that balance back for
right,
eating. Your eating
right,
balance. Okay.
yeah.
Any practical tools, grounding
Mm,
techniques, or any EMDR related insights that may support listeners before we end? We've got got 7 minutes left still. So
okay.
yeah, let's talk about some of that.
So, well, I already mentioned one of the books, Sick Enough, um, and also finding a medical provider that you can trust.
Oh, that's a huge one. Yeah.
Yes, that's huge. Actually, even from a personal experience, um, the way that we knew, or my family knew, that it was an eating disorder, it was actually through my pediatrician. It
Mm-hmm.
was my mom and my pediatrician's like, something's up here. This
Mm-hmm.
is not good. So having that, and that had been my pediatrician for many years.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew, right, what was the average weight for me,
Yes.
and he's like, "Uh-oh, something's happening."
Something's happening, especially during that around that age
Mm-hmm.
group too, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a red flags.
Exactly. And that medical provider really helped my family find the right place
That's
for me
so
too.
important.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So finding a medical provider you can trust, which is huge and unfortunately is not always accessible. So we're really going to have to become advocates.
That's the thing, right? I think it's important for people to know that when you're navigating a lot of these services, we really do have to be our biggest advocates because sometimes people fall through the cracks because somebody misses something or
Mhm.
just not intentional all the time. And so we really have to be on our A game when we're trying to get services for either ourselves or our family members and advocate for ourselves.
Mhm. Mhm.
What else?
Now with like EMDR, you mentioned EMDR.
Yes.
In EMDR, we have things that are called resources, right?
Mm-hmm.
So their resources are things that help us.
Yeah.
So butterfly hug is a very common one, and butterfly hug just
Oh,
kind
I
of
like.
looks like this, right? Yeah. So slow taps. It literally looks like a butterfly and like you're hugging yourself. And so, what I would say for the support system, to really visualize an internal figure that is loving and has
Mm,
strength, because that's what you're going to need to support your loved one,
okay.
right?
Mm, love that.
And then for EMDR therapy, like, of course, finding a specialist that understands and respects the medical component, but also respects the family system and the person as
Hmm.
a whole.
Okay.
All right. Just
Yeah.
kind of a big one. Again, you're really going to have to
Do your
advocate for your
homework
guy.
and advocate,
Yes.
right? But this
Yes.
is like you are giving people the guidelines right now.
Yes.
So that's beautiful.
Yes.
Anything else?
Mm-hmm. Um, Actually, I did. I think I meant brought it here. This is kind of a big one. It's a heavy one too. So it has to do. So remember the eating disorder. It came here to help, right? But there's a secrecy component
Hmm.
that comes with eating disorders or anything related like that, right? And so it's important to understand, be curious. Again, I'm talking to the support system and even the person if they're in the recovery phase. Because when you're in the first phase of that struggle, you're not going to think about this. In the recovery, you will,
Hmm.
but your loved ones can begin to think about this. So it is the secrecy. Remember, it's both a learned behavior and again a protective mechanism. So really ask yourself this question: what is this eating disorder trying to protect?
Yeah. You'll find a lot of keys in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
More insights. That's about like remaining curious.
Yes.
Wonderful, Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
We've got 3 minutes left, right? Thank you guys all for tuning in and listening. We want to end with a gentle encouragement, right? I think for me, I want to just say healing is a process. Start slow
Mm-hmm.
wherever you may. Okay. Be gentle and kind with yourself. I kind of want to leave you guys with that. Any gentle encouragement you want to share with?
Yeah. I just want to let people know that recovery is possible. It's actually, they've
Yes.
done even research, and it's actually a pretty high percentage. It is possible, but also remember that it's not the only job for the individual, is the job for the family, but also the collective. And we're kind of doing that work right now and bringing it to light.
Absolutely. Providing a lot of psychoeducation.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. Yes. You guys, thank you so much. Remember, tune in because we are going to be recording bi weekly and we're going to have wonderful information like this, wonderful, resilient stories like Carolina's. Um, what else? I think I needed to say something. Do you want to? Oh, yes. This is what I want to share.
Mm-hmm.
Where can our listeners find you?
Oh, yeah. Well, they could actually find me on my website. It's for consultation for EMDR.
Yes, please
So
share.
at consultingwithcarolina.com. And it's just that consultingwithcarolina.com. And also, you can find me in Instagram. Not always very active, but I'm there. You can say hi.
Well, I love the see Carolina shares. She reads
Yep,
all day long. I
extensively.
love reading too,
Yes.
but it's really awesome because she'll recommend books and she'll
Yeah.
put a lot of really good content. And she's just so amazing. Again, thank you so much. I've known Carolina since when 2017. So again,
It's a
thank
life.
you. Thank you for being here. And thank you to our listeners. We made it through our first episode. Yeah, through our first show. I hope it was beneficial to all of you. And I guess we will see you guys next time. I don't know if we're